So the month of July is officially over, which means it's time for my monthly recap and ranking for the films I saw in theaters this month. And I'll keep the intro brief, but I thought it was a great month for films. I didn't really see a terrible one. As always, I've done reviews for all of these in depth already. You want to check those out. They're on my channel. Go look for them, come back, whatever you want. And as always, these are my opinions, not yours. So I love hearing you in the comments. Discuss down below. Do you agree, disagree? I'd love to see your list as well. But regardless, let's get into it, starting with number 8. So my least favorite movie of the month was a movie called Crumb Catcher. And any other month, it would probably be a little bit higher on this list because it's not terrible. It's just very strange. And how I describe this in my reviews, it's about this couple. They get married, and the night after, they're obviously on their honeymoon. In the middle of the night, this old guy shows up and he offers them the chance to invest in his product called the Crumb Catcher. It's as weird as it sounds. You're probably wondering where that's going to go from there when I describe that. And that's really the sell to this film. When you're on board with the mystery of like who this guy is, like why is he so strange? He's also kind of different than a lot of movies like this where he's just like an overly happy guy who makes you feel weird because of it. He's not like a creepy home invasion like murderer vibe. So it's got that going for it. But the problem in the hold up to this film is what I just said. When you kind of figure out where it's going and the mystery starts unraveling, it starts to feel very derivative, and that's really the only cell in the glue that holds it together. The longer this thing goes on, I just thought the less interesting it got. And it's one of those films too, I always say, where your imagination's kicking and you're wondering where it's going to go. Basically, anything your imagination is thinking this is going to do is probably more interesting than what we got. Again, it's not a terrible film. It's just something I don't really think I could ever revisit. But yeah, it's my least favorite movie of the month. Number 7 is a film called The Beast Within, starring Kit Harington or Jon Snow from Game of Thrones. It's a werewolf movie. And it is a werewolf movie, but it's more of an elevated horror take where it's doing commentary on abuse through relationships of parenthood and spousal relationships. So if you're into those elevated horror films, this one might really work for you. I thought it was just okay. Like, it's fine. It's not a terrible film. I thought there was actually a lot of positives to it. I thought it looked really good. It was acted well. I thought it was oddly unique in what it's trying to explore, obviously with werewolf contrast to abuse in general, like manhood. I thought that was unique, and I gave them credit for that, as well as kind of telling you at the end like that it is a metaphor, and they were really open with that, where a lot of these movies like to be ambiguous. They're kind of up their own ass. Yeah, this one was okay. If you're a fan of werewolf movies, you like elevated horror, particularly where there's metaphors, commentary on societal issues, deeper themes, this one could be for you. I just thought it was a little bit boring. Like the main part of it, like the scares, like the suspense, the intensity, didn't really land for me. So again, I understand what they were doing in it. Another month, again, it could be a little bit higher, but I saw a lot of good movies this month. It was just okay. That's why it's number 7. Now, coming in at number 6 is actually Longlegs, which was my second most anticipated film of the entire year, and the entire top 6 is very good, so it was really close for a lot of these. And I really liked Longlegs. I do not understand the hyperbole that this is like the scariest film of the decade, that it was Silence of the Lambs. I don't agree with any of that. In my review, I didn't think this film was scary at all. I thought there was basically no intensity to it, but I thought it looked awesome, and I thought what they were trying to explore was pretty cool. I gave it a pass. It was a little bit disappointing because I think the marketing hyped it up so well. I think the marketing was, as I said, generationally good. Like, I think the generational marketing of this really misled a lot of people, got our expectations a little too high, myself included. I'm not oblivious to that at all. This was a cool one. It follows Nicolas Cage as a serial killer. You have Mike Monroe kind of hunting him as an FBI agent. It takes some weird zigs and zags with where the story goes, as all Osgood Perkins films do, if you're familiar with his work. I thought it looked great. I thought the suspense or the score of trying to make the suspense was cool. But yeah, it just didn't land for me in what they were trying to do in the end. Again, not a terrible movie. This is probably the one I'm the most interested in to rewatch, because I think a second watch and noticing some of the things in the background could really hold up. But I was just a little bit disappointed. I would be lying if I didn't say that, and I try to be honest on this channel. Thought it was a good movie. Think it's criminally overhyped right now, and how people are, glazing this thing to be the best movie of the decade. I do not get that at all. But yeah, it's a fine movie. It's good. You can have fun with this. Just go in with level-headed expectations. Do not let your ego inflate from those trailers, or you will probably be left disappointed. A little bit like me. That's why it's number 6. So coming in at number 5 ahead of that is a movie called Fly Me to the Moon, which is actually an Apple exclusive that came to theaters around the 4th of July. This is one of the bigger surprises because this is just not the type of film that I usually watch. It's like a romantic comedy drama about the moon landing between Channing Tatum and Scarlett Johansson. And I had a lot of fun with this one. I really had no expectations. I didn't know what it was about. Just knew it was something to do with faking the moon landing. I thought the story itself was pretty interesting and compelling, and I thought the chemistry between the two leads really carried the movie. I think Channing Tatum at this point is establishing himself as a very funny guy, and he just is a great character both in cameos and as a lead role. I think he kills it in this. Scarlett Johansson as well. I think she kind of proves in this that she's an elite actress. She's not just a pretty face. And I just thought the story was an interesting enough one that I wanted to find out what it was about, if it was actually true. You know, growing up, I heard that they faked it, they didn't. This kind of sheds a little bit of light into like why people perceived it to be faked, but it really wasn't. Thought it was a cool story to hear, and I thought the cartoony humor kind of grew on me towards the end. So pretty big surprise. This is one of the funnier movies I've seen this month. It won't work for everybody. But this movie is one I described as a movie that was important to be released during the turmoil we're having as a country around the 4th of July. It kind of makes you proud to be an American at a time where everyone feels so divided. I just had a really good time with this one. I had a smile on my face. That's why it comes in at number 5. Solid movie. Now, coming in at number 4 is actually another comedy, and that's going to be Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, I had a great time with this film. I laughed my ass off about 4 or 5 times at least. Really enjoyed the cameos, but it wasn't all perfect because, as I said in my review, it's a Ryan Reynolds comedy, and you know what you're getting with those. But when his jokes aren't landing, it really feels like you're being waterboarded by bad jokes, or you're watching a comedian just flopping. Because there's like a couple of stretches there in this thing where, you know, the way he tells jokes, it's 10 jokes every 10 minutes where he's just rifling them off over and over again, trying to dig himself out of a hole. And there's stretches where the jokes are not funny. At least they weren't to me. I know for some people they laughed continuously. I was definitely in spurts. I had a good time with it still. The jokes do land a lot. I mean, I thought the story was very skim in this, but I did laugh incredibly hard at a couple of moments. Again, I don't understand the hyperbole. This is the best comic book movie, one of the funniest movies ever. I don't agree with that at all. But I definitely think it's a great time. I think it's a good summer blockbuster. If you haven't seen it somehow already, go out and see it. It is not a waste of time at all. It's a good Deadpool movie. You know what you're getting. That's why it comes in at number 4. I had a blast for this thing. Now, before we get into my top 3, if you're enjoying this video, I would appreciate it if you subscribe down below. We're on the way to 500 subs, and I do it all on this channel. I do new releases, scary stuff, rankings every month like this, and tier lists, so I'd love to have you. But let's continue on. Number 3. Now, coming in at number 3 ahead of that is Twisters, the sequel or whatever to the original, starring Glenn Powell and Daisy Edgar Jones. Now, I said in my review for this one as well, I know I am in the vast minority of people who does not like the original Twister. I thought it was pretty boring and slow. I just could not connect with it after 20 years watching it at home, not in a theater. Well, I understand my bias towards this new one because a lot of people have let me know that I just don't get it, and you know, I'm overrating this film. I just had a blast with this film, mostly because I had no expectations for it. I watched the original Twister 2 nights before. I had a friend begging me to see Twisters. I went and saw it with him. I thought it was great. I loved this film. I thought the action in this was phenomenal and incredibly intense. I thought there was a lot of heart to this film where they're discussing the aftermaths of tornadoes, why it's so important to stop them. Science is a little iffy, but you know, I'm willing to forgive it, suspend my disbelief. But I just think the 2 leads in this had great chemistry. Glenn Powell is a superstar in the making if he's not already. This is by far, it was on my list, one of the biggest surprises of the year so far. And it still remains that way. In terms of action movies, I really think this movie is really dang good. If you want a summer blockbuster, you want to take the family, go to IMAX, go see this thing. You will not be disappointed. I compared this to a lot of people in the comments as Top Gun Maverick to Top Gun. That's what I think of Twisters the Twister. Everything you like about the original, I just think Twisters does a little bit better. It's a little bit bigger. It's got a little bit more like flamboyant, outgoing characters that are just more likable. It's got a little bit bigger budget. The CGI is well improved. So yeah, I think this was a great film. That's why it comes in at number 3. Coming in at number 2 is actually the biggest surprise of the year for me, and that is the horror movie called Oddity. But during my review for this one, I described it as the scariest film of the year, and I still think it holds up. I think it is not even close, honestly, out of all the films that have come to theater. This one's a weird one. It follows this girl. Her sister is like a psychic, and she's blind. And she communicates with people, both dead and alive, through their objects and their possessions. And it's just a very, very interesting take on supernatural stuff, like being able to communicate with the dead. Has some of the best jump scares of the year. If you like jump scares, this is the film for you. They got me 5 or so times, and I'm a very tough audience, but I jumped out of my seat 4 or 5 times. I thought they were that effective. It has a lot more to it in commentary than just jump scares, though. It's like relentlessly tense. You're following this weird wooden mannequin that's just sitting in plain sight the entire time. It's the definition of the Hitchcock effect. It's just a very, very effective low-budget horror film. Again, it's coming to Shudder soon. If you haven't seen it, catch it there. But if you have a chance to see the thing in theaters, I definitely think you should support it. This is by far, if not my favorite horror film of the year so far. I just thought this was a great time when it comes to being traditionally scary. At a time where there's a lot of elevated horror, and sometimes you just want those good scares, you know? But coming in at number 1, and it will be no surprise to anybody who follows me on my channel, and that's going to be MaXXXine, the conclusion to the trilogy by Ty West. And I know this movie's not without faults. I know it's pretty divisive. A lot of people were disappointed in this one as well, just like Longlegs. But I had an absolute blast with this film. I thought the sound effects and the music was phenomenal, probably my favorite of the year. I love the aesthetic of the 80s. I just love everything Ty West has done in this trilogy. And I said in my review, this is just the world. If he wants to make 15 movies, I'm there because I love what he's built in this world. I love the character of Maxie Minx, played by Mia Goth. She is just absolutely awesome in this role. I had a blast with this one. It could have had a little bit of a better third act, but that didn't take away from the fun I had. And it also was pretty much a near perfect conclusion to a trilogy, in my opinion. It was going to be really hard to conclude because the other two movies are so different than this one. The fact that it's even remotely close to that level was enough for me. So it's my favorite film of July. And honestly, it's probably going to be one of my favorite films when I do an end of year ranking because this movie, which is everything I wanted, I just need some more X in my life. So there you have it, guys. That's my list for the month of July. Do you agree, disagree? Comment down below. Let me know. I would love to hear your opinions on this. That's all I got in this video, though. I will see you guys in the next movie review as always. Peace.